Hey everyone, welcome back to more Flesh and Bad, and today we're going to be playing some more Jarl. So for this video, I wanted to kind of take a little bit of inspiration from Josh Lin's list from the Calling Singapore Top 4. This list is a very solid list, and I encourage you to kind of go check out this video if you haven't seen it already. I imagine most Jarl enjoyers have probably already seen this video, but again, I think it does a pretty good job of just giving a primer for Jarl in general, while also kind of like going over the macro strategy. So the list for today is going to be inspired by that list, and the main kind of focus that I want to put on this list is that we're not going to be running Pummel. So Pummel is a pretty good card in Jarl, historically. Like you get to pummel like a CNC, you get to pummel like Mangle and Oakenhold. Like there are a lot of fun pummel targets, but it kind of does go against kind of like the core game plan, which is like you basically just want to transition to an end game where you can outvalue your opponent by just like playing all your best cards like Felling, Oakenhold, etc. So for this video, we're going to be cutting Pummel, and we're going to be trying to run in a much more defensive shell. So to support that, I've kind of included a couple more D-Reacts in the board here. So we've got Shelters, Sink Belows, and I've kind of been liking the distribution between 2 Oasis and 2 Seeds just to kind of cover the Wizard matchups. Like I think this helps a lot in 2 Verdants. We're also running 1 Snag because Slippy is pretty rampant right now, so running a singular Snag I think is like a pretty good sideboard kind of tech piece, and also just kind of serves as like almost like a 0 for 4 react into other Earth decks, which is pretty sweet. So this is going to be the list for today. Again, we're going to try to be a lot more defensive. That's also why we're kind of running Barkskin. Barkskin, no, like historically this has just been Tunic, right? Like you normally just want to run Tunic over Barkskin just because like you get like pummel resources, and you also get the opportunity to like use Oasis. But I think the Barkskin actually makes quite a bit of sense because into a lot of the Wizards you're not running Tunic anyways, so like you don't really have like this synergy between Oasis and Tunic. And into like the non-wizards, it just offers a lot more block, especially if you don't really have an outlet for the Tunic counter, which in this deck we don't really. Like we're mostly just running a bunch of blues, and we're trying to basically like 2-card our opponent. The one thing we do lose out on is like the 1-card Mangle or the 2-card Mangle, where we just like pitch a blue plus Tunic and get a Mangle. But in general with Mangle, you kind of want to just like pay 3 cards anyways for gauntlet value. So we're basically going to be trying to run without Tunic today and kind of see how it feels. Yep, so with that, we're going to go ahead and get into the games. All right, playing against a Slippy. So this matchup can get a little bit fatiguey, so we definitely want to kind of fat deck a bit. All right, give them a good look, have fun. I think we do actually want Oasis in this matchup. We don't have Tunic, so they're a little bit worse, but I think we're basically just bringing everything except the gravy board. I think I don't really like Sledge in this matchup. Despite being a fatigue matchup, I feel like the Stalagmite does do a lot of work in just stabilizing our life total. So I think we're going to try it like this. All right, what do we want to do to start? Kind of almost like just pitching to gauntlets and sending CNC, because that might leave them stranded with reacts if they want to give a 6 block. Alternative play is we can try to or pitch the snag, but then that lets them know that we have snag. So I'd almost rather keep the snag early on, just so that we can make sure we get the value out of it. I think that makes a bit of sense. I feel like snag gets worse in the late, like kind of the later the game goes. It's like a good insurance policy, but if they start like CNCing, like doing like Codex CNC, then it obviously gets a bit worse. But I think since this is a fatigue matchup, I think I am supposed to attack on turn 1 just to kind of like get a few cards out of hand and maybe just leave them a bit stranded here. Hmm. All right, we're going to start with the Art of Desire Body. That's fine. I think we'll go ahead and just give a little bit of block here at the Terra Sunder. They want to pump this. I think that's okay. So we could actually give this snag here if we wanted to. But I feel like in terms of value, the Art of Desire Body is not necessarily what you want to be snagging. Ideally, it's like bonds. So I think we're just going to let this hit. They had fruits, which is actually kind of good for us because that means that it does fuel our decompose, which is nice. And now we just get to block a CNC, which is fine. So they're pitching a Codex for later. All in all, I think this actually kind of works out pretty reasonably for us. Then we just get to functionally stay at 40 here and pass back. Do have an Imposing Visage here if we want to use it. Also, Unforgetting is quite nice. Ideally, I probably want to try to set up Crumble as soon as I can, just so we can start getting some Frostbite value. All right, so coming in with the Mark of the Black Widow, I feel like the correct block here is to just block with the Unforgetting, Unforgiving, and if they go for the pump over, then I think we're supposed to snag that. Because they do also have to invest a dagger in marking us, so this could actually lead to them like over-investing in something that might not hit. Which I kind of like. Alright, seems like they're going to opt not to go for it, though. Right, and starting off on Infect. I think we're just going to try to hold on to Imposing plus Everbloom, and if they do try to go for like some weird pump here, then I think we're fine to just snag that. But we'll see what they do. Okay, seems like they don't have a pump in hand, which is good information. I think we're just going to go ahead and Imposing Visage. I'm almost putting them on at least one D-React between these two cards. So I think that if they are on a D-React, then this play is pretty annoying for them. All right, we find our Mangle, which is quite nice. And we do also have the double Earth cards to support that. So we have 2 blues. We can pitch both of them to Gauntlets. The only problem with this is that it's 2 Seeds of Tomorrow next to each other in the deck, which is kind of terrible. So from like a late game perspective, having 2 seeds right next to each other is obviously quite poor. That being said, we do have shuffle effects like Remembrance if we want to go for that. So maybe having this first cycle is not actually that bad. At least that's what I'll tell myself. All right, going for Saber here. Saber into Infiltrate. So this is fine. So they're going to try to do a dagger attack at some other point this chain. Interesting. I feel like we're almost supposed to just let this Infiltrate hit and then just wait for a better threat to use a Root Bound on. So they're definitely following up with a dagger at some point. I guess the question is like just when. So I think we're going to say no locks to this. And if they banish something, they banish something, and that's fine. They have Felling, which is not incredible for them to play, fortunately. Doesn't mean we lose a Felling, but we also gain a Decompose, so maybe that's all in all not that bad for us. Does mean that we're going to have one less Felling to buy back with Remembrance, but we do also have better target. We have other targets like Oak and Old that we can get back as well. All right, pulling Tunic. All right, and we are following up with the CNC. Huh. This play is really weird to me because I guess the question is why did they play the Saber Bloodshed? I feel like that's a bit of a mystery to me. So unfortunately our play is like a little bit different now. So either now we have to like let go of the snag, which is not ideal, or we can we either like take 6 and like get hit by this, or we have to seeds, which means that we can't pump Mangle by initial 2. But I think that's probably fine because we still get the dominate on it, which is pretty relevant. So I think we're actually probably supposed to use one of these seeds here. So yeah, the Saber Bloodshed was still a bit confusing to me. Maybe they thought it would pump on the Infiltrate. But all in all, this actually kind of works out fine for us. We don't get the Decompose out of the Root Bound, but we don't need it since they banished 2 Earth cards for us, which is actually kind of nice. And now we're potentially threatening their Flick Knives, which is good. So now they have to like D-React an Arsenal to soak this up, or they have to give us like 2 pieces of armor, which is unlikely. Oh, they are going to give us the crown, though. I think that's actually pretty big for us. Because that functionally also gives us a outlet for Frostbites. Right, seems like they maybe want to do something a little bit different. Oh, maybe they wanted to sink a different card. Right, maybe not sinking the Arsenal, just sinking a card from hand, and then they lose their headpiece, which is at least nice. So now we can hopefully start generating some Frostbites if we find the right cards. We don't really need to blow up Flick Knives as like a super high priority. Like if we just find a random mangle, we can throw it. We don't have to like kill it with like frozen to death or anything necessarily. All right, coming in with a Kiss of Death. So if we're marked, notably, we will lose a bit of extra life. So I guess the question is, if they have Torrential Toxin, which of these two cards is Torrential Toxin? Because a decent block is if we block a Stalagmite, then they might have trouble using this card from hand, or like they are guaranteed to pitch this card from hand. So I kind of like giving the Stalagmite block. The problem is if they shred it, then we obviously lose a counter on Stalagmite. But I think this is maybe still fine. And then we can take an additional 1 here if we want. Or we can block with the Frozen to Death. I feel like there are a couple interesting blocks on this hand. I think we're supposed to just try to take 1 if they want to flick through the Frostbite. Maybe we're fine with that. We'll see what they do here. So I'm going to go for the sink. And then choose not to sink. And then just take 2 off this functionally. So I think they did have the opportunity to flick a Clave there if they wanted. But maybe instead they're just going to attack with it. I think that's also fine. So what's the worst case scenario for us here is that they have like Codex. Even that's not like terrible, right? So I think we're just supposed to take 1. If they want to flick to just like draw an extra card, I think we're fine with that. All right, seems like they're going to flick the Kiss of Death instead, which will not remark us, but still fine. I think all in all, this is like a fine exchange. Like worst case scenario, they have Codex here, but even then, that's not that bad. Okay, they have Codex, so they get back a Leaveno, we get back our CNC, and then we just get to cover with the sink below. So in that case, we should probably just like keep the CNC in Arsenal and then ditch the Frozen to Death and just Sigil. Kind of like that. All right, we got 1 Codex out of the way, which is nice. Oh, did they not have a... Oh, they did have a Leave now. They're just opting to go for the Mark instead. Interesting. I probably should have paid more attention to that, because that means maybe we're supposed to do something different. No, I think the play is still the same. Like, we're just going to still sink this. And yeah, I think this is fine overall. I'm going to try to sink this for a blue, but I think Sigil is, like, pretty good. And if we draw, like, a random red, I think that's pretty bad. So we'll go ahead and sink here and then just keep the CNC in Arsenal. Force them to disrupt us again, basically. All right, ping on the backside. So we're already marked. So this is just basically damage. I guess the question is, do we want to soak any of that damage? Probably do want to soak a bit of damage. Like, taking 4 off this is obviously not ideal. So maybe we're just supposed to block the E-Strike, and if they pump, whatever. All right, coming in with the CNC, which is a little unfortunate. So if we didn't block that, then we could have had an extra block for the CNC, and then we can send Felling. But all in all, this is still like kind of fine. So we just give up the last charge Stalagmite plus Gauntlets here, and then we just hit him with a Felling. And then next turn, we just have CNC. So overall, not the worst thing in the world, although if we saved our block a little bit, then we could have been in a little bit of a better spot. So we're going to go ahead and Felling here. Decomp, get rid of probably just Autumn's Touch. I want to keep the Crumble, so maybe getting rid of Seed. Which is better between Seeds and Everbloom? I feel like Seeds might be better for the crown, the Plume utility, and then we'll get rid of Imposing. So all in all, not terrible for us. And now we have a Felling in the R, which means that their future codexes maybe get a little bit more risky. We did see them pitch at least one of them. All right, seems like they're just going to give us Wrecked here, which is also fine. I'd say we're in a pretty good spot right now, honestly. Art Desire Mind is an interesting one. Oh, I might have passed a little bit too fast there, but I don't think we're going to give any blocks to this anyways. So if they want to banish a random card off the top, I think we're fine with that. They had a CLF, which is a little unfortunate, but not the end of the world. Oh, seems like they maybe had some react or something. Sure. Okay, seems like they're just going to go for a Just a Nick. So in that case, we probably do want to still or Pulse now. I feel like Pulse makes a lot of sense now that it's covering the breakpoint very cleanly. Like if this is just coming in for 1, I feel like I don't care. But if this is coming in for 6, I feel like the upside of using the Pulse now is pretty good. Just perfectly covers the breakpoint, saves us 1 fatigue. Unfortunately, we have the information now that the top card is a blue, but like it's kind of not our fault. All right, they're gonna pull Tunic. Oh, I think they wanted to shred this. Okay, that's unfortunate. I think if we were in a paper game, I'd obviously let them undo. It seems like okay, so their card in arsenal is now shred, which is pretty valuable. Okay, so we got a lot of like weird valuable information, not necessarily through any fault of our own here, but let's try to play as though we didn't know that the top card of our deck is a CLF and then that their card in arsenal is a shred. I guess like in paper games, you sometimes also get like hidden information that you shouldn't necessarily have access to, but if they're just gonna like let their arsenal go here, maybe it doesn't actually matter all that much. So technically what they should have done is responded to the Frostbite with the Pulse. But I think they just missed the timing window there, which is a little unfortunate. Yeah, the Shred there actually would have been pretty decent because it lets them draw an additional card as well. All right, we have another Felling, which is at least nice. We are marked, which is awkward, but we can't actually use a Barkskin charge here if we want to. The only issue with that is they can potentially still pump over anyways, and then we're kind of in a similar spot. But I think it's at least worth threatening it. I don't think we're gonna give more. Like if they go for more, then we just like discard a CLF probably, and then just send Felling on our turn. I think we're just gonna give this block in hopes that they might not have a pump, and then we're in a pretty good spot. They do have a pump, not the end of the world. Then we just discard the CLF. All right, interesting. They're gonna flick again. Huh. Why the second flick? Oh, maybe they just have like a retrieve card. So I'm putting them on having like an Upsticks or something here, or like an Orb Weaver. Sure. That's fine. All right, they have Codex, which is pretty good, obviously, but then we can just get back our Felling, and then we can like just chain back-to-back Fellings, which is nice. So we discard our CLF, we give them... So we obviously are getting Felling. They get a Mark of the Black Widow? I feel like it's just better to get Leave No, right? The Mark of the Black Widow is confusing because now we can just give 3 block on armor, right? So we'll discard, I guess, the Crumble. Maybe discarding the CLF is better. Not entirely sure. So, oh, they come in for 6 now, which is a little bit more annoying. So now we have to, like, block with Civic, Gauntlet, and the Felling. And then we just get to play another Felling. Okay, this is not, like, actually that bad, right? Yeah, this is kind of fine. Maybe we were supposed to discard the... Oh, I think I know what the play was. We were supposed to actually discard the Felling instead of blocking with it so that we could use the extra embodiment. Okay, that's another punt for the Jarl here. So I'll go ahead and increment it. All right, go ahead and pass back. So you do just get to Felling for 7 here, which is nice. We are giving them a Quicken, which is scary, but their first attack is going in anyways because they're Slippy, so maybe it doesn't matter that much. It only matters if they start with a card that doesn't, or start with like a non-stealth card, like maybe like an E-Strike or something, then it can matter. So go ahead and decomp, getting Fruits, Gauntlets, and Visage. And we've seen all of our Fellings at this point, so our Remembrance, I feel like, is very live, and I think we also, we don't have an Oaken yet. We can maybe just get back a Crumble at some point too. So all in all, I'd say we were in pretty good shape. got a pretty good life lead. We are a little bit low on armor. But that's fine. All right, the Bonds of Agony. Yep, so this is pretty scary. I think that there are a couple ways we could block this. I think that getting rid of the Oakenold is probably our best line. Like, we just block with the Oakenold, and then if they take a Winter's Bite, do we care about that? We probably do. So maybe the block is like 5 here, and then we can also Remembrance and Rootbound, so we're kind of safe from the effective Bonds of Agony if they decide to like pump super high over. Right, seems like they're maybe going to go for it here. So they had a double spike with Blood Rot. Interesting. I feel like maybe they're going to try to go for playing both of them off Tunic or something, or playing both off Persuasive. Okay, so this works out. They are going to unfortunately hit with it, which is a bit annoying, but not the end of the world. So we'll decompose here. Or do we actually want to decompose? How many Earth cards that do we have that we don't care about? We have a decent amount, but maybe we're supposed to just take an extra 1 off this. Maybe we want to leave as much fodder in the yard as possible, so I think I'm not supposed to decompose. And then we're just supposed to Remembrance here. So we'll buy back definitely our 2 Fellings. It's going to be a little bit awkward for our Plume, but I think that's fine. And then what's the third card we want to get back? It's either CNC or Mangle, or I feel like Mangle is actually not terrible. We did lose our Gauntlet, so maybe it's a bit worse. Maybe we're actually supposed to just get a CNC here. Maybe even Crumble's not that bad. Let's get a... I think let's get a Crumble. Yeah, we have an extra Crumble. It's pretty good for the other Oakenolds that are still in the deck. Then we'll go ahead and take functionally 6 here. But they are using a lot of their kind of like better resources, so I think that might be okay. We're at least not losing any fatigue value, which is nice. They do get to obviously see what cards are left in our deck, but it's kind of pretty face up, I feel like, at this point. The important thing to note is that since we're not on Pummel, they do get a bit of information at seeing that we don't have any Pummels in our deck. So that could actually influence a lot of their plays in late game if they don't need to play around Pummel. Maybe their plays get a bit better. All right, we'll go ahead and take a little bit of damage here and pass back. So life totals are evening out a little bit. Just kind of scary. Seeds here, not necessarily great, but we can E-strike it if we need to. And I think we're not scared of Mark of the Black Widow. I feel like if they want to just pump in, or if they want to like flip Clave and add like a pump to it, then we just sink below it. So I think if they just want to discard a card from your hand at the cost of a Clave, I think that's actually kind of fine for us. So what threats do we have left in the deck? We have one more CNC, or one more Codex, which you have to worry about, which we don't notably have a great target for. I guess like CNC or CNC or Oakenold are both our best targets. Coming in for 1 is fantastic for us. What are the threats? They have 2. They have all CNCs are gone. Another Bonds is obviously a little annoying. So they can pump this if they want. Unfortunate. I guess we're supposed to just block 6 on this then, which is annoying. I guess like what is the highest they pump this? How many Justinics have we seen? We've seen 1 Justinic. It seems like they're running more Justinics than normal. So in that case, we're probably supposed to overblock a little bit. And then we can have the Sink Blow as insurance, and then we just like pitch to Titan's Fist or whatever. All right, how many Bonds of Agnes have we seen? We've seen, I think that's the second one. So we get rid of a Clave here, which is nice. So that's both Claves down. We've not seen any retrieve stuff from them. Then they're going to take up the Mantle, so they're pumping it to 10, which we can nicely cover with the Sink Blow here. So go ahead and cover with Sink. Funny thing you can also do is like you can Plume to get back like fruits and just discard it, which we're not doing here because we don't need to. So I think we're just going to send 3 on our turn and just fully cover this. But yeah, this works out quite nicely for us, I feel like. So yeah, that block actually worked out very, very well for us. Unfortunately, we were losing like E-Strike and Everbloom. Not the end of the world. They are off daggers, which is, I think, a pretty solid trade for us. How many marked Black Widows have we seen? We see have one red mark we have to worry about. Probably one red infect. I feel like a decent number of reacts we still have to care about, though. Whether that's D reacts or attack reacts. And at least we're getting a little bit of value out of the hammer here, whereas they might not get dagger value for a bit. We've not seen any retrieve cards though, so maybe they might be drawing it at some point. All right, interesting. They're going to come in pain in the backside, which notably does not trigger. So I feel like we're actually supposed to take the damage off of this. We take the damage off this to clear the mark, I think. And that way we don't have to like worry about like take up the mantle or any of the other kind of like mark synergy cards. All right, they come in with a leave no. Do you care about leave no? Not particularly. I think we're just going to send like Glacial for 8 on our turn just to get a little bit of fatigue value, I think. Yeah, that seems fine. Could have also like Oasis and pitch one and then Arsenal the other, but like this isn't like a high priority Arsenal target. I feel like Oasis is a much better Arsenal target. If these were ice cards, we could have frozen to death, but notably they're just elemental, so a little bit sad. All right, and it looks like they're just going to opt to take 8 here. A little bit scary, especially on a no dagger hand. But they might also just have reacts here. Okay, they have at least one react. Okay, going for the double sync. Cleanly covered, but we're still kind of winning in the fatigue game here. The Glacials are interesting because I don't like Glacial's not Glacial's kind of like whatever card, but I think it does help in like Prism, just as like an extra popper. So we're kind of trying it out. All right, we find another Felling, which is fantastic. They're gonna go for another Bonds. Terrifying. Do they have like the stuff to pump another Bonds though? I feel like this is just bait. I mean, we can still like pretty cleanly cover this with like Oasis. Like, there's no way this is hitting, right? I guess the question is like, are we going to be able to hold on to both the Felling and the Crumble? I guess is the main question. So I feel like in that case, we should actually maybe just block with the Civics here, because maybe that breakpoint ends up mattering. I'm trying to think of a world where it is. Like, maybe it's the 7 breakpoint that matters. I don't know if that will ever actually matter, though. I don't think it will. I'm gonna do it, but I feel like this is actually maybe a wrong block. It's like I don't think this actually helps cover anything. So they black text to give go again. Sure. Then they flick and then we just a nick. So is this gonna help? They pump to 12 or 11. And now we can just Oasis pitching the Felling. We also don't have to pitch the Felling if we don't want to. We can just pitch the Crumble and then Arsenal the Felling for next turn. The alternate play is that we can like Bloom for something. Does that help? I think we're just supposed to Oasis, right? So Oasis pitch the Crumble. So this is covering 5, and I guess we're just double dereacting here. Still works out. So I guess we just don't have to like decompose the Rootbound now. So I guess this like maybe so the Civics still is not helping here, right? So maybe that's actually a pun. Maybe we're not supposed to like actually block with the Civics. I'm trying to think of if there's a world where blocking with the Civics actually helps. I feel like the answer is no. But I'm not sure. Yeah, we'll go ahead and Arsenal Felling and pass back. I feel like there might be a world where the Civics matters. I'm gonna tentatively call that a misplay. It was a misplay, I feel like, situationally, though. Alright, Kiss of Death, vanilla damage. I don't think we really care, and we also have the snag in case they want to pump, so I think all in all we're fine to take this. Probably want to try to block something with the Oakenhold this turn if we can. But I think we're just going to take R4 here. Functionally, it's going to be a lot more off the Flick Knives, but that's okay. think that might be... So they have one more Kiss of Death left in the deck. We're not seeing any Tarantula Toxins, actually. Bonds are all gone. I'm trying to think what else they could have. Pulling a counter for pick up the points, so they finally found their Retrieve. Part of me kind of wants to block with this Oakenold, but I also kind of don't want to. It's probably efficient too, I will say that. Do we have to worry about another Codex, though? I guess is the question. Not really, because we still have the Autumn's Touch, and then we have the Snag, and then we have that. So, like, we already have an arsenal. I think it's probably safe to block with the Oakenold. We can also just take it, though. If we take it, and then we can, like, maybe say this for pitch, that's also fine. I think I'm just going to take it. Let's see what they have after this. All right, Persuasive. So I think we're going to try to just get them with the Snag here. And just block with, like, Barkskin. And force them to have a pump here. If they don't have a pump, it gets a little awkward because we're still going to be bottoming the Oakenold anyways. But if they don't have a pump, we can actually buy back Crumble with our Plume, which is quite nice. So I think that's going to be the play. We're just going to try Snag, whatever they do. I'm assuming it's probably just a Nick or something. But if they don't have anything, then this block is, like, fantastic for us, kind of. So I think we're also at... Or no, we shuffled with Remembrance. So they're just pumping for 2. Go ahead and just snag this. So another play we could do is we can actually bottom the Sigil Arsenal the Oakenold if we want to. I don't mind that either. I feel like Sigil's like a better arsenal though, because it like baits out the last Codex. So I think we're gonna go for that. Because I'm assuming that this player is maybe gonna try to go for Codex when we're on an arsenal, because we're gonna have a Felling in the yard. So we're going to decompose the Barkskin and get rid of the Terra Sunder, bottom the Oaken, and then Arsenal Sigil. And the goal here is basically to get them to Codex, and then we play the Sigil in response to the Codex to buy back a Felling, and then we block whatever they do. So I think this works out pretty well for us. We're also evening out the life totals a bit here. All right, there's one of the Tarantula Toxins that we have not seen yet. So we get a bit of value there. All right, Orb Weaver to re-equip another dagger is fine. Then coming in with the Mark. So do we have a Mangle in our deck? We do have one last Mangle, right? So we can actually go for the Unforgetting, Unforgiving. The only problem is that we do have to, like, hard cast it. But that's still fine, right? We just block with Unforgetting, Unforgiving, and maybe... Probably just block with the Winner's Bite at this point. Like, I don't think we actually need the Winner's Bite to win. So we'll just cover the clean 6 on this and get our Mangle out of our deck. And then we can just send in for functionally just 8. We did also have the opportunity, if we didn't want to tutor for the Mangle, we could have gone for an Oaken if we wanted to. I feel like we're not in a real rush. Or no, sorry, we can't buy back an Oaken with Plume. What am I talking about? So yeah, this is just fine for us. Unfortunately, we also don't get to, like, Everbloom plus Sigil. I'm trying to think if there's a better play there. Maybe there was. I feel like still just, like, Mangle for 8 is, like, kind of fine. Because now we're threatening, or basically forcing 2 cards out of hand because they have to try to save their Flick Knives if they want it. Yeah, unfortunately, we're not able to break Flick Knives this game, but sometimes it happens like that. Okay, and I'm happy just getting 3 cards out of them here. They're on a 1-card hand and they like Codex. I think they probably just lose. Because then we just get back a Felling or whatever, and we're in pretty good shape. Okay, seems like they're just going to pass here. So now, what do we want to Arsenal? So we probably want to play out the Sigil now at this point. And then we can do, like, E-Strike into E-Strike bottoming Oasis and the Arsenal the Blizzard. The Blizzard's actually, like, pretty alright here, right? So we'll go E-Strike, bottom the Oasis, Arsenal Blizzard, and then just Titan's Fist. go ahead and just capitalize on a little bit of tempo that we got here. Then we also get to get a little bit ahead on life total with the last sigil. We can arsenal the blizzard and then pass back. So they do have the opportunity to flick here if they want. We maybe actually should have blizzard before blocks. Is that worth it? I think we're fine discarding though. So maybe just block with like an Autumn's Touch because like it's pretty low risk too. So we're already winning on deck, so like we don't really need to not block. I should have used Blizzard before this, but I guess it kind of works out because now we're doing an after reaction. So I think we're actually just gonna Blizzard now and just keep them off cards. This was like a weird Kalashar punt. I don't know if I would have done this punt in real life, but I guess I'll count it. We gotta increase the misplay jar at some point, right? All right, just a few misplays. That was more of a Talishar misplay though than anything. So this is kind of interesting now. Our Desire Mine, we don't really care too much about. I feel like we're just sending in CNC, right? So we should just block here just to deny the banish off the top, I think is fine. If they want to pump this, I think I'm okay with that. Alright, seems like they're just going to take it. Sure. So they should have one more Codex, right? So going off an Arsenal here is like kind of fine. It's only awkward if they are able to keep a blue and then like get a CNC is like the worst case scenario. But even then, like we can kind of still block. Like if we draw 2 3 blocks and then a blue, we can get back felling, discard whatever the last card is, and then just like felling them again for 7. Seems like they're gonna shelter for the pitch value here, or the discard value, maybe just to prevent an extra 1. I think that's fine for us. Oh, maybe they wanted to, maybe they didn't want to shelter there, actually. I think they might have thought that they could play direct there. All right, seems like they had shelter in Arsenal, which is also, I think, pretty huge for us. So how many seeds have we seen? We've seen 1 seeds here. So we have 1 more seeds in the deck, so I would like to try to prioritize keeping an Arsenal if I can. So we should be overdue for a Codex at this point, but this hand's actually perfect for Codex. We might just have to say no blocks to the Infect, though, if we want to keep this whole hand. Because I'm assuming what they're going to have here is, like, Infect into Codex, or, like, Dagger Codex or something, and then we can try to blow them out here. So I think we're supposed to just take the 5 here, and if they have Pump, what is, like, the max number of pumps they can have? Spike with Blood Rot would be a little annoying. What else would be annoying? Justin Nick, they've already used 2. They've already used 3 Razors. Shred could be annoying. So I think I'm supposed to just play around Shred by not blocking this. I don't know if we've seen another Shred, though. I think the main thing I'm trying to play around here is just Codex, which we should know about in the next card, unless they have some other weird way to give go again on the second chain link. I think this is fine. All right, so it feels like a Codex. Unfortunately, it seems like they don't have the pitch, though, to get a CNC. But I guess it's still the same math regardless. We still have to block 6 on a leave no. And it basically works out kind of the same. If we drew a react, though, I think we might have used most of our reacts at this point. But if we had like a reactor and Oasis, then I guess the math gets like a little bit better. All right, there's the last Codex. We get back a felling, which is fantastic. I'm assuming that they get back a leave no, but I guess based on their past blocks, or based on their past decisions, they might be getting back a mark. kind of fortunate for us they weren't able to get a CNC, but I guess we still kind of played around CNC anyways. So we'll get our felling, we'll discard CNC, we'll block 6 here, and everything's pretty good for us. Oh, they are getting back a block, marking the Black Widow. Oh, in that case, we shouldn't have. Okay, whatever. Okay, that was technically a punt because I expected them to do the logical thing of getting back Leave No. But I need to be a little bit more careful, I guess, about that. So in this case, I guess we're just blocking with Terra Sunder and then IPing ourselves. I guess we could get to, or no, we don't even get to pay for that. I guess we can also just send Hammer for 5, and then that still kind of works out the same, right? Hammer for 4, or Hammer for 3, playing the Blood Rot, we get 5 value out of that, and then we get a Felling. We have 2 shelters on the bottom. I think that works. That might be better. Might be better. Is that better than Felling? Felling is really good. So the problem with Felling, no, we're probably just supposed to Felling just to get cards out of their deck, right? Yeah, I think we're supposed to Felling even though we lose the value on paying for the Blood Rot, but I think that's still a better play than sending Titan's Fist and paying for Blood Rot. Because now we just get the fatigue value. We don't get to keep an arsenal, which I guess is bad. So I don't know. They don't have any more arsenal disruption, which is nice. They probably don't have Mark of the Black Widows. They probably have 2 more persuasive. So we'll decompose, get Autumn, and what here? Maybe a Mangle. I think this is fine. But obviously keeping, I think, like, if we saw that they got Mark of the Black Widow, the optimal play there is to get CNC so that we can just send CNC from hand. And then we block 3, and then we just have Felling for next turn, I think is maybe the best play. I'm a little bit confused on why they're getting Mark of the Black Widow versus Leave No. Like, it's kind of just strictly worse, right? All right, last 2 T-Toxins gone is fantastic. That means we don't have to care about that anymore, although they only have 1 Kiss of Death left as well. So I think we're fine here. So not pay. Seeds is awkward, but fine. They don't have any more codexes that we have to worry about too, which is nice. So I think we're supposed to just take the dagger here. They're gonna flick the Calicera at me. Oh, maybe they just have another way to like re-equip dagger. Sure, that's also fine. Okay, last pick up point is good. So now we just get to buy back Felling, Winter's Bite. I guess we don't even have to Winter's Bite, right? I guess they have double Clave, but even then, that's not that good. So now we bite into another Felling. Yeah, seems good. They do have Tunic for what it's worth, but it also kind of still stuffs their next turn. Oh, they're not even choosing to pull Tunic here. Interesting. So maybe we were actually supposed to try to block with the Winter's Bite next last turn. I don't know. That's like very marginal, I feel like. All right, so we're gonna Plume, put the seeds on the bottom, get back Felling, and then send it in once again. Felling is truly the gift that keeps on giving. I think this should just kill, right? Or if they block 3/3, then they just have to block with Tunic. I think that works out. It's definitely a long one. So they do have a way to live here, but they have to give us 2 cards that both block 3, and then Tunic as well to stay alive. And even then, they're off tempo, which is pretty bad. So this block does keep them alive, but fortunately, we're time walking them next turn, which is really good. And then any 1 point of damage will kill. And that will be 1 point of damage. That will even be more than that because we got Oaken Fused is pretty good. I'd say pretty decent in the late game. They do have like 2 shelters in hand, but fortunately this does get around that. So that will be good game. So I think their hand is like 2 shelters at this point, right? Yeah, so there's the first shelter, there's the second shelter. Unfortunate. I think that if their shelters were maybe at a better point in the game, then that gets a little bit better. What threats do they have left? They had two. They had one persuasive. They blocked with another persuasive last turn. Our Desire Body we saw pitched, and then it was just the last Just Mech and Double Trouble. So overall, I think we did pretty well that game. I think we'd made a couple misplays, but a few of those were, I think, Kalashar misplays. All in all, I think that this matchup is pretty good for Jarl. I think that I don't know. I don't know if the quick dodge actually help more in this matchup. They might. I still am kind of a fan of just like Civic Steps, just because it means that like you can play off non-blue hands, which is quite nice. So you get a little bit more flexibility out of your block, which I kind of appreciate. Yeah, but with that, let's see if we can get one more. All right, we got a Katsu here. Give him a go look fun. Let's see what we want to get. So equipment looks right. Basically, just want as many D-Reacts as possible here. I think Oasis is probably excessive. Seeds is good. Shelter's good. 2 Unforgettings is good. I think Snag is probably bad. I think we're just going to run it like this and see how it goes. I think our plan is probably just Fatigue at this point. So how are we going to start this? Probably just send Mangle Arsenal Rootbound is like the play I see, just to get a couple cards out of hand. It does kind of deny filtering because they probably want to block 8 on it. So they only get like 1 card of filtering. And if our plan's Fatigue, then I think this kind of makes sense. So I think our main, like the problem we're trying to solve with this matchup is like how are we going to block their cards. Okana Scar Wraps makes blocking quite difficult. The one downside, I guess, of attacking in on turn 1 is that we do enable them to have like Bonds of Ancestry targets, or which is maybe not the greatest, so they do get like a free fluster there. But all in all, I think this is still fine-ish. All right, starting with the Edge of Autumn is fine. So we're basically just looking to block out their kind of like key threat cards. Mainly Surging Strike is the big one, Whelming Gust Wave. Be Like Water, another pretty good one. So we do need to play around Okana, which is always difficult. I think the play is like, are we supposed to double block this? Probably not, right? I think we're just supposed to let them tutor, and if they want to get a Whelming, then we double block that. So I think we're going to say no blocks on this and just let them get whatever they want here. They have the empowerment anyways, which is fine. So yeah, I think we're just saying no blocks here. And then they are free to discard and tutor if they want. So the more they use the Katsu ability in this matchup, the better, or like the closer we can kind of transition to a late game against them. Some Katsu lists are running some number of Remembrance, which we do have to be a little bit careful of. But I think overall, you kind of just need to know when to not block and when to try to block. So what's the play here? Probably just going to Everbloom, swing Hammer, so I think the play is just block 6 on this. If they do anything more afterwards, then maybe we're going to give a couple more blocks. But I think all in all, the kind of like key cards we're trying to block out are like Whelming and Surging Strike. And then otherwise, we're kind of just letting them have as many Katsu triggers as they want. Okay, so I think in this case, we're just going to block with Everbloom and then just send pitch Autumn's Touch to just send it with Hammer. Would that give us Decompose, though, is the question I have. So we blocked here. So we would not have Decompose if we did not block. So one other thing we could do is like Everbloom and just put that in the yard. I think that's pretty low value. We still do want to try to kill them at some point. So I think we're just going to block with the Everbloom and swing Fist for 4. And they are off an Arsenal, which is at least nice, so they're not going to be like threatening us super massively next turn. All right, so we're going to go ahead and just swing with the Fist. So the Rootbound, still not great yet, but we do have some time to make it work. They're not keeping a 5-card hand here, which is nice, which means we might have like a little bit of time to kind of just buy some room. And fruits can also kind of help us decompose here if we want, which is always nice. So it looks like they're going to just keep getting some Edge of Autumns in, which I think is actually fine for us because it's basically like they're paying 1 card to just get a point of damage in, which is not the biggest deal in the world. All right, here's 100 wins. I think that if they want to pump here, we should just let them have it. Worst case scenario is they follow us up with like a Surging Strike, but even then that's not the end of the world. So I think we're just going to block a little bit here. try to keep the life total high, try to kind of make them go towards like a more fatigue end game. All right, so they have the empowerment here, that's fine. So they're going to Katsu trigger. We get basically one extra card out of their deck, which is nice. Man, looks like they're just going to get 8 Winds of Eternity to wrap it up. Or, oh, they have another 100 wins. That's pretty sweet. So we can't, unfortunately, punish them with Stalagmite here. We could actually punish them with the Civic Steps, though, if we wanted to. We just block with, like, Civic Steps, and then... What are we doing on our turn? We can, like, E-Strike, discard Fruits. Or we probably actually want to block the Winds, right? So that they're not putting more cards left back in deck. So I think if that's the case... What do we want to do here? It could also be correct to put the Civic Steps on the Winds. Maybe we're supposed to just double block the Winds. So I think we're actually just going to give the Civic Steps here because it's face up what they're playing next. So I think this is overall fine. It also just gives us an excuse to use our Civic Steps with pretty minimal downside. So I think here we're maybe supposed to just double block, keep the life total high, discard the Fruits. This will also enable our Rootbound, which is quite nice. But every time they use the Katsu ability, they're basically going to be kind of fatiguing themselves, which is kind of like the end game I think we're playing to is just like hard fatigue. I feel like trying to out-disrupt Katsu is... You can do it, I think, if the cards align, but I think it's a little bit more difficult on this kind of style of deck, where we're a bit more defensive. So they're pitching a Retrace when they have Tunic up was interesting. Maybe they're just going to try to play a Surging Strike anyways or something. In the case of Surging Strike, we're probably just going to try to block 6 on that. So how many attack reacts have we seen? We've seen 2 Ancestral Empowerments. They pitched a Legacy, but they're Katsu, so they can obviously just redraw back into the Legacy. So I kind of hear almost like the block of Frozen plus Everbloom. And if they pump over, it's not the end of the world. Alternatively, they can just have the Whelming. So maybe we're actually not supposed to block on the Surging. Maybe we're supposed to just say you can have Surging and see what they have next. Because they could also just have like a Gust Wave in hand, and then we have to block that. So we have one red Gust Wave out of the deck. We need to keep track of 2 more. So I think we're just supposed to say that maybe the Surging is fine. Yeah, I think we're going to say no blocks on the Surging. And just try to block out the other cards they play this turn. I'm basically just giving them free Katsu triggers every turn. And if they want to Lynx, that's also fine. They're going to go for Dishonor. Okay. So that would suggest to me that they have Descendant and Bonds in hand. Okay, so this card's Descendant, this card's Bonds. They're pulling a Tunic counter for what? Oh, maybe they thought they had to pay for the Gust Wave? Okay, that's potentially what they were thinking. So the Stalagmite's notably not doing anything here. So I think what we're going to do is we have to block 5 on this Dishonored to play around the Okana. We could also just get Dishonored. Like, how bad is that? It's like pretty bad, right? It's pretty bad. I kind of almost think like maybe we're supposed to just let ourselves get Dishonored and then send Felling and then like Rootbound them and stuff. So it's interesting. So why did they get Dishonored? What are they getting? What are they getting to play after? Oh, they want a Spinning? Is that what they want to do? But Spinning doesn't even work. I'm confused. I'm confused why. Okay, I'm not entirely sure. I think we're just supposed to take 4 here, though. Yeah. I'm a little bit confused by the line here. Seems like a weird Bonds Dishonor line. Because now they have to, like, give us Breeze Rider, too, right? I guess they can also, like, Dishonor for 2. So they're not getting out anything. I'm confused by this. Okay, so Bonds gets what? Bonds gets a Fluster. Fluster gets Fluster. So we can block. So we just don't give Civics here. We can block 3 here. I think this works, right? And then we just block 5 on Dishonor. So they have to Breeze Rider now. If they want to. It's such a weak Breeze Rider. Yeah, I don't know if I get it here. So we block 5 on this. We block with Frozen, I guess. And then we just root bound. Do we have a fodder? Yeah, we have plenty of fodder. So we just root bound and then filling them on our turn. That's fine. Yeah, so this is like a weird play. I don't know if I see the vision here. I think we're just going to root bound this. Just so we're not sending a baby felling. So fruits and Autumn's Touch. We're basically going to be decomposing pretty much everything here. Especially our next turn. Yeah, but this play was pretty strange to me because they're also just like getting rid of their armor, which is also like a pretty huge deal for us. So we'll decomp, get Rootbound, Everbloom, and we want to leave E-Strike in here, so I guess the next best card is probably Frozen. And now we just put him on 3-card hand, which is pretty good for us. Great, we got some nice blocks in hand. Potentially felling them again next turn, which is also pretty nice. Just keep up the tempo a bit. So I think we're going to just look to try to block 8 with our cards in hand. In the ideal scenario. So this block is pretty effective against Surging, so we'll go and do it. If they want to Okana this, I think we're fine with that. And then we're hoping that they have maybe just a 0 for 4 or something afterwards. If they don't, it gets a little bit awkward, but also not the end of the world. Oh, Yellow Whelming is actually fantastic for us. So we block here, they can Okana this, and then we just get to felling them. Yes, we do get to felling them one more time. This works out pretty good. So we are chewing through their deck pretty well. We've seen all the Flusterfists, or the red Flusterfists gone, which is pretty good. They have 1 Bonds. A couple of good targets in there, but I think we're just going to try to go for another felling. So we'll decomp, get them Plume, and then we'll get rid of a Mangle, leave the E-Strike in there in case we draw into one of our Everbloom lives. Yep, but the felling here is quite nice, so we'll keep them off another 4-card hand next turn, which is nice. So is this a good opportunity to use another Civic Steps here? I almost just want to cash this in as the 1 block value, but the 1 block value like might actually be relevant in this game, so I think we're probably not supposed to. This hand is like awkward though. You kind of need Sync to filter for something here. So I think we're going to say no blocks and then try to Sync the Rootbound, and maybe we can keep a Terra Sunder here. So if this hits, the last card of the Combo Chain, yep, so they can Okana this if they want to draw an extra card. The question, I guess, is do they want to invest that in? It's entirely possible. I think we're still doing the same play of just getting rid of the Rootbound. If they want to Okana this, then maybe we're fine with that. So are we fine with that? I feel like we are, right? They just draw a random card off the top. I guess they get to Katsu trigger, which then also becomes awkward. So maybe we're not supposed to. Maybe we're just supposed to like pitch the crumble. I think this is fine. So now we just Rootbound, and then they're off of stuff next turn, or they're off of their Edge of Autumn, which will make their future plays a bit more awkward. So I think we'll just no blocks this, or not decompose this, just to get a little bit of extra fodder in the yard. I think here the play is to just Titan's Fist for 4, and then Arsenal CLF. Little bit of a weaker play, but they are off Edge of Autumn, which is nice. So now they do have to figure out a way to get it back. Ooh, Red Whelming hit off the top is nasty. All right, we could be in a little bit of trouble here. So they hit a Red Whelming off the top, but they're leading off on a Gust Wave. What does that tell us? It tells us they probably want to retrace. Well, I imagine if I was them, I'd probably want to retrace, right? So if that's the case, they don't have Okana, which means that we don't really have to be scared of Attack React. They have 2 Legacies left and 1 Empowerment. Interesting. So I think we're not supposed to overblock this. I think we're just supposed to give the Oakenold here. And if they do go for pump, then we're probably fine with that. See what the follow-up is. So they did have the natural Retrace the Past, so they're going to name Surging Strike presumably here. And then this Whelming is going to be coming in for 5, which we will then have to give. So what's the best block here? We block We block 5 with Sync Blow and Gauntlets, and then E-Strike. Is that the best line? We also just block with the E-Strike and just preserve life total a bit. I think I don't mind that either. Oh, I should have also checked that they named Surging. Yeah, they did name Surging. So the Katsu trigger doesn't matter here. They are almost out of their best threats, so this is the second red whelming, I think. So you have one more red whelming to worry about. So we block 5 here. They don't have Okana up, which is great for us. And then we just get to Sigil, pad the life total a little bit next turn. This is pretty good for us. We do still have the Stalagmite available to us as well, which is probably going to start hurting them pretty badly here. Hopefully, assuming that we get to capitalize on it. I feel like the real bad turn for them was the Lynx turn. Like, I think that turn was kind of what put us in a pretty favorable position, because on that turn, they basically just used their Lynx and their boots to just send 4 extra damage off of Fluster. So I feel like that was actually like a pretty big deal for us. Okay, it looks like they are running Mugenshi line, which I think this is the first time I've maybe noticed this. But Mugenshi is like kind of whatever. So what are we doing here? Could just give us the Stalagmite here if we want to, but there's not really a reason to go for it. I feel like maybe the play is to just go for Shelter. Let's go for Shelter, I think. Just de-react this, prevent them from getting in their bonds, and then maybe the rest of their turns like a bit weaker, and then we can send like a CNC at them. I think maybe there's an argument to just letting this hit, because if they hit with it, then maybe we don't care really what they tutor, but they do have bonds, which we're like a little bit worried about. Alright, so we do have to block this because this is a card with Vengeance in its name, because we just don't want them to re-equip the dagger. So I think we're going to give the CNC block here, and then just take it. Then our turn, we're just sending 4, gaining 3. Fortunately, we can't play up the CLF here because the Glacial is not an ice card, but that's fine. Still just get a bit of chip in. The scary part is they're going to have a 5-card hand, but we have seen a lot of their better cards. We do have 2 bonds we have to worry about still. So that's like the biggest concern. And then we also have 1 red whelming and a decent number of surging strikes left. I really don't care as much about surging strikes if they don't have cross wrap. It's like the surging strikes are a bit awkward if we're holding up Stalagmite. Oh no, I think we're in an okay position though. Like, we still have a lot of pretty good armor left to us. And then any chance that we find an ice card, we can play out our CLF, which will buy us some more time. Right, so there's our ice card if we get the chance to use it, but we might just use that for blizzarding purposes. It might slow their turn down pretty substantially here, especially if they're pulling Tunic Counter out preemptively. So I think... So there's a couple lines we can do. We know they pitched a red, so I feel like Stalagmite might just be good enough here. Like, do we need to use the Blizzard here? Maybe not. Maybe we're supposed to just use the Blizzard for CLF purposes. In which case, we should probably just block 5 on this with Stalagmite plus Glacial. Kind of like this block. And if they have a attack react, then we probably don't care because they have some number of reds in their hand. So I think this is fine. So that's cleanly covered. Following up with 100 wins, which they have to pay for now. All right, following up with a Be Like Water. I think we'll just give another 3 here. And we basically just want to try to run them out of threats here. I'm still trying to stick to the initial game plan. Alright, we'll get our CLF online, channel it, and Arsenal sync. So we're in a really good spot now, I think. Because now they're going to try to have to fight through CLF on a 5-card hand without Edge of Autumn as well. I think these things are all pretty good for us. Alright, seems like they're just going to try to play out Enact, which is also fine for us. So this is a little bit awkward because we don't have our gauntlets. We can't CLF again. But we can actually CLF again if we just want to play out a fresh one. Is that like the best use of our resources though? It's not terrible. It's not great either. I feel like maybe we're just supposed to let the CLF die, but that also feels pretty bad. Seeds is honestly a little bit awkward here. Is the correct play to seeds and then play out a new CLF and discard fruits? That also might be the case. I guess if we're going to play out another CLF, then getting rid of this is like fine. Yeah, so I think this is fine. Give him a quicken token, which isn't going to matter because we're just going to like play on a new CLF. And it gives us an excuse to use the last trigger for Civic Steps, I think. Let's go ahead and play out a new one. And the question is 4 damage versus roots to gain a bit of life. I think 4 damage actually might be better, especially when we have like a pretty substantial life lead. Like if we can get to the point where we're ripping cards out of the hand through damage, then that might be a pretty big deal for us. So I forget which channel is happening first. I'm assuming that they... Okay, yeah, programmed correctly. Seems good. So I think the first CLF resolved and then failed to find the targets and then moved to the second CLF. I think that makes sense. All right, unfortunately, we don't get the opportunity to keep the CLF around this turn, this hand, but it's fine. They're pitching a lot here. Do we care if they go for bonds? Probably not. So we're not even supposed to block this. Just take the 3 here and see what they do. I think that seems reasonable. If they do go for double bonds, then whatever. Like, they're still going to have to pay through the CLF, which is terrible for them, I think. So all in all, I think we should be good. We're basically running them out of cards at this point. Oh, they cannot pay for the Enact Vengeance. They might want to do something different. Okay. Yeah, it seems like they maybe scooped off the back that they weren't able to do that. Ooh, and they have Flick Flack and Arsenal. All right, so that was a pretty rough game for our opponent. I'm kind of confused. Oh, they only have 1 Mugenshi. I was kind of confused why the Lord of the Winds are in here, but I guess they're running 1 Mugenshi plus Visit the Floating Dojo. Yeah, I've still just like never been a fan of the Mugenshi line. It's just like kind of just a welcome to Wraith card. It's so cool. Like the art's so cool. Like I kind of wish that they gave Katsu an armory deck that made use of the Mugenshi line, but like I've just never seen it do anything good, right? Like it's just like so many things have to like this has to hit, and then you have to like play 3 cards in a row, and then you have to like hope your opponent doesn't block it. It's like I don't know. It's just like a very clunky card I found, and like it has a pretty high deck building cost, and then you have to include Lord of the Wind, which is like a below rate card. I think it's kind of below right now at least. Yeah, but that's kind of like the core game plan in Katsu. I think this matchup is like pretty damn favored for us, just because like we have the ability to kind of like fatigue them. They'll run out of threats eventually, and we do block pretty well. So like they have a hard time kind of like pushing the damage unless they're running like tenacity or something, which I think is like the main way you kind of kill with this deck is like you have a 1 of tenacity which you get off your links, or you have like a fluster that you hit at the very end or something like that. But anyways, I think that's probably gonna wrap it up for today. So this is my current Jarl list. That's also based on a list by Josh Lind, which is from the Pro Tour Singapore, or no, sorry, from the Calling Singapore, who got a top 4. Pretty solid. I like his list a lot. If you haven't checked it out, it's pretty similar to kind of what I'm running. I think I kind of took a bit of his advice from kind of his like deck discussion and cutting like some Plow Under and maybe just adding like a couple more utility cards. I think that Crush the Week is also like a pretty good card in Jarl right now, which I want to try out eventually, but I'm not like super sold on this card. I kind of like feel like you can kind of get away with it even in the Slippy matchup, which we kind of saw earlier. Like I don't think this card actually helps the Slippy. Like it does definitely help the Slippy matchup, but like not super substantially. I don't know. I'm not like the hugest fan of this card, but I think it is like pretty solid in forcing aggro decks to block, which I think is exactly what you want it to do, right? But yeah, but this is kind of like my take on Josh's version of Jarl list. Again, I encourage you to go check out that video if you haven't seen it. I think it's like a pretty good Jarl primer in general. But I think I'm going to continue to play something like this. Just a very defensive Jarl. I think that I do overall agree with the sentiment to cut Pummel, because it really doesn't help in a lot of the matchups that we're trying to go for right now. Like it doesn't help into burdens. I don't think it really helps into like, I don't know, any of the faster decks or the slower decks. It's kind of just like a card that is good in like the Guardian mirror, but like that's it. I don't know. Like I'm kind of a bit down on Pummel. Like I just think that the React package is really good when you're behind, and if you're ahead, then you're ahead. You know what I mean? Like Pummel's kind of just like a win more card, at least in my kind of evaluation of it right now. All right, but I think that's gonna wrap it up for today. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see y'all next time. And a special thank you to all the folks who decided it would be a good idea to give us $2 on Patreon. We really appreciate the support, but it's obviously never required.